Hi there, my name is Abad, first year BCIT student, and today I will be providing an overview of revisions I've made to assignment 2 of COMP2510, procedural programming in C. The purpose of this program was to use a merge sort function that would organize student data based on specified criteria, with the option of filtering them based on their status, which included domestic, international, or both types. We're going to be executing the revised program and comparing it to test outputs, but we're going to first re-encode these files to be in UNIX style encoding. And that's going to be with the command line tool .unix. And as you'll see here, we're just going to enter all the files that we'll be using. And once we're done, we can then compile our program, which is once successfully done, we can now run our first test case here, which is for domestic students. And we can see in the output that it contains data. And then when we compare the output to the first expected output, it passes. And then we'll just call the program, re-execute it for the second test case, international students. And as you can see here, we have data. So then let's compare the output to the second 100% match. And then let's just run this again, we'll just type it out. And we can see for the third output, both types, we have data. And when we compare that to the third expected output, we have 100% match. And then let's just run this program as well on the errors test case for all types of students. And it'll raise the invalid day flag. And we'll see when we open the file that on line 6, we have Mr. Keith Schmidt. It contains the prefix Mr., which is offsetting the fields here by 1. In each of the other lines, the third field here is a date, and for Mr. Keith Schmidt, instead of expecting a date, it's receiving a last name, so the invalid date flag is thrown. Otherwise, that is the test cases here. In terms of the changes made, they weren't all too extensive. On the left, we have the revised program with 669 lines, and on the right with 668. So the addition of 1 line. If we see here on the right for line 581, we had to check for an empty line, so I was making sure the last line was completely empty. But seeing as that was a misunderstanding of the requirements, I basically ended up removing that line entirely. And so we see here that that line is no longer there. And we can also then see in line, starting from line 442 for add student on the left, as well as line 442 as well on the right. We can see that on the right here for the previous version, I was appending the list, but appending a null node. And then I was setting here current to next. And so nothing was really being done with current. It was only being set to next, but that was because I wanted to be following the tail of the list to achieve an O of 1 appending of nodes, since current was created in my read file, which was pointing to head. So unfortunately, the program was sometimes crashing and returning a segmentation fault, and that had to do with one of my functions, my add first name function, reading a null reference to the node. So it wasn't pointing to anything. It didn't have any memory allocated. That was my line of thinking. So instead, on the left here, and I'm calling append list, I'm actually including a fully processed node rather than a null node. I'm still setting current here to next, but instead, since current next is null, I'm then calling create node to allocate memory for it. And you can see here in the read file, instead of then having current point to head, I'm just creating a node. But that in effect means that I have an O append for my appending, since I'm having to start from the head and then traverse all the way to the tail. But at the very least, my GitHub does have an even more up-to-date version of this assignment, where I did end up adding 40 lines, but that at least means that my program's cross-compatible with different text encodings, as well as re-achieving the O of 1 appending of nodes. So I've included that link as well. But otherwise, thank you very much for your time.